My dad was like, I love your mum unconditionally. He has never loved since, never will love again, in his words.
The relationship has conditions and not so much the love.
I actually also think that conditional love is a beautiful thing because it implies that you are chosen and you choose your partner every day, every moment. I don't think love is a thing to be won. I think love is an action that you do to one another.
I don't know. I don't think I agree with that. I think it's this lovely place where you arrive at. You do then just naturally want to do things for the other person. I started writing poetry when I was going through these moments of great breakups and unrequited love. To lose and to then move on and rebuild yourself is one of the most incredible things that anyone can do.
Welcome to Think Twice. My name is Benz.
My name's Tef.
And today we have like an old friend of ours. I've known our guest for a very long time. He's always been handsome. He hasn't always been so tall though. That's the thing. Like, I don't know when he became so tall. He walked in the house today. I said, "What the fuck?"
Yeah. No, he's been tall.
But not that tall. But we have a poet, spoken word artist, rapper, and one of the coolest people I know, Dan Whitlam.
Thank you very much.
Welcome to the show, bro.
Yeah, appreciate it, man.
Thank you for coming. So today we're going to talk about love. And love's like a weird topic. And on this show, I guess our audience think like, Benz and Tef are going to talk about love. Are they going to talk about who's cheating on who's dating who? And I was like, bro, that's the wrong show. You got the wrong show. If anyone's going to discuss it, it's the wrong show. But obviously, we are going to discuss love. And because we've got our lover man here, who often speaks about things in a deep, introspective way that I find captivating, and it seems like so many other people find captivating.
We love it.
We have to touch on this subject. And the reason why we're asking this question is because Dan's most famous TikTok, I believe, the caption on it says, POV, you still think about them 10 years later. And I thought, bro, that's crazy. If my babe is thinking about anybody 10 years later, that is crazy. So,
That's a whole decade.
Yeah, man, that's a long time you think about so much. So yes, is unrequited love overly romanticized, Tef?
I've got two parts to my answer.
Okay.
The first part is no, when unrequited love is expressed from men. And I'm talking about heteronormative relationships, so that's my experience. But the second part of my answer is yes, when it comes to women. I just feel like in popular culture, women are told that love is something that they should wait for and something that comes to them. And, you know, stay demure, make yourself lovable, stay pretty, and you will attract love. And I think in that sort of environment of popular culture, unrequited love is like an acceptable situation. Like it's fine to wait. It's fine to wait. Just wait, and the guy will come and he'll capture your love. And I think when you create art around that, when you create songs, poetry, music, it's like romantic. Do you know what I mean?
What do you mean here in like with unrequited love? Are you speaking about in terms of like the ever searching like pursuit of finding a love, or could it be like a lost love, or where do you lie within all that?
It's a good question because I think there's multiple planes of unrequited love, right?
Absolutely.
There's a love where like you love someone who doesn't even know you, right? And that you're like obsessed with the idea of someone who doesn't know your name.
Yeah.
That in a sense is unrequited love because you love someone and they don't love you back. But there's also that love lost, like you say.
I feel like the umbrella term, or like when I was looking at it, is sort of the unfulfilled love, like lost love, and love that hasn't happened yet, but it's just unfulfilled in any context.
I get that as unfulfilled, but obviously there's different versions of it that might be more harmful or more toxic than others.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like an unrequited love where someone doesn't even know who you are is weird.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that could be borderline dangerous.
Yeah, it's weird. But if you've had the love and the love was withdrawn, and you long for that love to come back, I do think that's, first of all, a more common scenario. Right?
And I think that's what I'm trying to get at. Like,
Yeah.
I think within the world we're living in right now, that is something that so many people have experienced. This idea of potentially being in love with someone, whether it's being vocalized or not, whether it's turned into a relationship or not, this kind of like logging. And I think the reason it's so sort of prevalent within like society or culture or everything you see online is because it's seen as this like noble conquest.
Yeah.
Like it's something that if you suffer with your love, I think that's why artists like write about it. And I think that's what Ben said about the poem. Like I wrote about it because I'm not in this situation where I'm still in love with someone from 10 years ago. But I think there's a situation where people can sort of see themselves within like a blink or an instant seeing an old partner where they go, oh shit, I experienced all this stuff with them. And it was, incredibly profound. And then to imagine a scenario with them further down the line is something that we've all kind of gone through. But I think it is sort of something that people take on and they go, I want to wear this and suffer with it. And that makes me a better person. It's seen as like the tortured artist, and everyone bangs on about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it can be worn as a badge of honor.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's an outward expression of your devotion and commitment.
100%. Yeah.
It's actually to an idea, but seemingly to a person.
Yeah.
And I think that puts people in a sort of moral high ground.
Yeah.
And I do think it plays into the popular notion that that's kind of what love is. Like we're told that love is suffering and compromise and like selflessness.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and I sort of fundamentally disagree with that notion.
Okay.
But back to what you said it's not overly romanticized for men. What do you mean by that?
So I feel like in popular culture, like I said, for women, it is romanticized because, it's tied to this longing for a person, stay demure, love will come to you. It's also a bit passive, but men are told a different story in love when they're growing up, right? Instead of waiting for love to come to you, as a man, you go and get love. You go and win the love of the woman that you want. And if you persevere enough, if you just buy her the right amount of flowers, if you just take her on the right amount of dates, if you say the right pickup line, you can capture the woman's love. And unfortunately, what that can do in especially young men is that it creates an entitlement around love. So when a woman rejects you, it's not just that you were rejected by a potential partner. Something that you feel that you should have was withheld from you. And it creates, I feel, sometimes a resentment in young men who don't quite understand the nature of love. And that is not romantic in any way. That cannot be spun in a romantic way. It cannot be portrayed as romantic in art, in poetry, like it can with women. And I think that's just sort of a problem that popular culture has. And, there's multiple stories of unrequited love, a man feeling rejected by a woman and doing some fucked up shit.
Yeah.
Because they feel jilted by a lover.
That's not represent. It's not romantic at all for men.
No, I don't think it's portrayed. I don't think people try to portray that problem of unrequited love in straight men in art. I don't feel like they do.
Do you not think so?
No, I feel like, sort of come back to your art. I feel like why it resonates so well is that it sort of breaks from that narrative.
Right.
Do you see what I'm trying to say? It breaks from the toxic narrative that men are told as young men. And it shows a different side of unrequited love, a more introspective side, a side that sort of understands the complexities of love and doesn't necessarily feel entitled in any way. And I think that's the key thing. If you strip out that entitlement, it can be romantic.
Okay.
And I feel like the exploration of unrequited love without that entitlement is fascinating, and it captures people.
So you're saying that you think the narrative that I take with how I speak about unrequited love or loss of love is like what traditionally a sort of feminine like standpoint.
It certainly breaks from the
male
sort
narrative and the traditional.
the problematic male narrative.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think to say that it's sort of like traditionally feminine, I don't know if I'd go down that route because obviously it's uniquely from yourself. And you identify as a man, so I don't know if that's the right description for it.
Sure.
But how do you feel about that?
I think what I'm doing is trying to just like voice. I think a lot of people say to me, they say, especially like young men, if they do reach out and message me about what I've written or how I write, they often say that they felt like they've always wanted to write or voice themselves about these certain emotions, but they haven't either been given the license to do so because it's been deemed as like cringy or like it's something that men shouldn't speak about. And I think trying to give a voice to like, people who think they're like voiceless is a really important thing.
Yeah.
And I think especially within love, to speak about, traditionally ideas that men weren't allowed to speak about, like missing someone or the idea of like how you've lost the love of your life or something like that. I think it's so troubling to like go through like a heartbreak. You know, we've all gone
Yeah.
through it, and it's like something that's really, really tough to get through. And I think just to like give some voice to that and let men know it's okay to speak about things like that is really, really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I like your art, because it breaks from that narrative. And online right now, there's a lot of young men that do feel like men withhold love from them.
Yeah.
Kind of probably in the last 5 to 10 years, there's been a rise of angry energy online.
Absolutely.
From young men who feel as if, you know, women are withholding, you know, sexual favors and love from them.
Weird, though. I do disagree with you in a sense.
Okay, what part do you disagree with?
Well, because in popular culture, I see the love as earned. I don't see men as feeling entitled to it. Like, for example, take like a movie like Hitch. We've all seen Hitch, right? Like, this has actually just come to me, for example. Like Hitch, when Hitch is teaching the person to love this woman or try and like get this woman, it's to like curry favor with her. It's not that he's entitled to it, it's to improve himself in order to make himself an eligible bachelor for this woman. And that's generally how I see it. I see it as like they're yearning for it rather than they're entitled to it. And there's problems because, like, for example, like The Great Gatsby, that would be a problem.
Yeah.
That would be problematic. But when you see things like Hitch, and I think that's more modern day sort of culture, Gatsby is set in the 20s, it sort of reflects like a yearning, a desire to be better to attract this woman.
I hear that, but also Hitch is what? He's like a modern day like pickup artist.
Yeah.
Right? It's about manipulating the woman to make her want you. That's what he's teaching the guy to do. He's telling him all the lines to say, the clothes to wear, the dance moves on the dance floor, right?
It's a little bit misrepresentative because the idea is like
you literally matched exactly what I said before. That's exactly what Hitch is going to win the love of the woman. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, but
the woman has it and is a thing that you go and get from her.
And you're saying that's problematic?
100% problematic.
But you're saying that's overly romanticized, that's seen as a good thing in popular culture. And it shouldn't be seen as a good thing in popular culture.
Correct, yeah.
Okay,
certainly Hitch. Yeah, certainly Hitch. I do think there's a darker side of...
I don't think there's something wrong with that. I do see there's problems with it, but like...
Hitch.
No, with the idea that you have a woman whose favor you're trying to curry. That can be problematic, but I don't think it's inherently problematic.
Well, obviously, like, as much as men do that, a lot of women want to play the part of the woman who has the love and is won, right? A lot of women want that. And who am I to say that to consenting adults who want to play that game with each other, that game of romance, who am I to say that they shouldn't do that?
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that the overall framework creates this tug of war between a straight man and a straight woman, where one's trying to win something, the other's trying to hold it back and give it to them at what they deem is the right moment. And you create this tug of war, when really I don't think love is a thing to be won. I think love is an action that you do to one another. You see what I'm trying to say? And we'll get into the definitions of love that I wanna...
Yeah, because I don't know if courtship is where love is present at that moment. I think you're conflating courtship and love. Like, I think courtship is there for someone to like you, to like things about your personality.
Sure.
And then love fosters later on down the line. But that's how I see it.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's how I sort of see that.
I hear that, but like also in a relationship, this remains a tug of war. It's like you might enter a relationship, let's say in the heteronormative like framework. You court, you win the love of the woman and you enter a relationship. There's still a tug of war there. There's still, is he still doing the things for me to win my love? Is he still buying me flowers? Is he still doing the things that he did in courtship that I expect for him to win my love? And for the man, it's like, well, I have the love now, so I want to do less. So you see the tug of war?
Do you not think a lot of the views that you're like, they went out of date like a long time ago? So there's a lot more equality now with like women courting and men courting, and this like meeting point of, you know, let's find love, but also like, I'll take you out. This kind of like meeting point where we're both doing things for each other.
Yeah, no, and I think certainly in our lifetimes that there's been a massive shift towards that equality.
Absolutely.
What I'm talking about is like the portrayals in popular culture. I think like as people, like especially in progressive like spaces, and I would deem us all here to be progressive, we don't do that. We don't assign to that sort of framework anymore. But there's millions of people that do. And there's a lot of art, film, books that stay in that. I'm seeing like just traditional stuff. Man win woman, woman wait for man. You know what I mean? That's how it is.
Sure. I guess for me, from purely within unrequited love and from an artistic point only, I think I actually found, and this sounds so wild, but I think it's true for a lot of people who do art in any form. I found so much goodness within my writing, and like I really found my best writing when I was going through something really tough. And I think the times when people turn to art, they turn to poetry, they turn to film, they turn to literature, they turn to songs, is when they're going through great difficulty and great problems in life. And I think similar with people, like, you know, I don't know about you guys, but, you know, for me, certainly I started writing poetry when I was going through these moments of great breakups and unrequited love. And I was kind of there writing along like, you know, why doesn't she want me? Why doesn't she love me? Whatever it is. And I think that like unrequited love in that standpoint has brought about incredible steps with like literature, songs, but also like mental sort of like growth, you know? I think to lose and to then move on and rebuild yourself is one of the most incredible things that anyone can do.
It's like we wrote the same notes.
Oh, man, I'm looking at his shoulder. So I think from that standpoint, unrequited love is a really incredible thing. But I don't think that is saved for like one sex. I think men and women hold on to that, whether it's 100 years ago or today. This is from an artistic standpoint, but I do think within myself, I believe that will kind of, you know, you like to think that art mirrors life and life mirrors art. So
agreed. And I actually agree with you, especially in the scenario where you had a love that was lost. I guess a lot of my critique is about love you don't yet have, or love that you have not experienced yet, but you idealize in a romantic partner that you haven't actually peeled the layers back of yet. You sort of portray an image onto them. And I feel like a lot of that unrequited love is reflected in popular art, which is, I guess is my point. But to what you're saying, I hear it. There's a lot that can be learned in that moment of fragility, in that moment of heartbreak.
Absolutely.
That was a nice segment. I really enjoyed that. And I got caught in a point because you were talking about something that I didn't really deem as love.
Courtship?
No, we'll come on to it.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realise you were mid-segue.
Yeah, I was trying to segue, you know. That's all right, man. It's all right.
Keep going.
We're 30 episodes in, I can't read the cues.
So something I didn't really deem as love, so fuck it. On to the next segment. Is it possible for love to be unconditional?
I don't think it is possible for love to be unconditional.
Stop right there. What do you think? I feel like you were ready to say something.
I think if we're speaking about romantic love, I don't think it's possible. I think love needs to have boundaries, and unconditional love for me implies that you're loving someone despite everything, and that includes like no boundaries, etc. And I think it's a wonderful notion, and I adhere to it, that you should love someone despite their faults.
For sure.
Like I think what was it? There's this great quote where it's like, I like you because, but I love you despite. And it's like, you know, when you start dating someone, you fancy them because they're whatever, they make you laugh, whatever. But then as you get to know them more and more, you notice that they fucking, I don't know, they like snort or whatever little meaning of things, you know. It's kind of like, I love you despite that. But I think real love comes with boundaries. And I think that's so powerful in a relationship, to have boundaries and be like, no, this is where I get off. Don't do that. And I think unconditional implies that you can just get away with murder and there's nothing else. That's kind of where I stand on it.
Yeah, I 100% agree. 100% agree. I think those boundaries of like, this is too much for me. I want to be loved a certain way, expectation from the other person. All of those things make up a healthy relationship for me. And I think if you can't continue to love in a situation where your boundaries are consistently overstepped, your expectations are not being met. I actually also think that conditional love is a beautiful thing, because it implies that I'm not going to love you no matter what. I love you because I choose to love you. I am taking a stand to love you. And making that choice to me is empowering, and it makes the love beautiful because you are chosen. You're chosen by your partner, and you choose your partner every day, every moment, whatever increment of time you wanna pick.
That's interesting.
What do you think? Is love unconditional for you? Can it be unconditional?
Well, usually I leave the spicy takes to you. But
Yeah.
I guess I've got a spicy take today. It's weird because I looked at the question slightly different to how you did and how you did. Because I agree with what you said, but I saw it as the relationship has conditions and not so much the love.
Okay.
So like when you love someone, you make a decision based on their character, right? Like I love you because of the person that you are. And then you create conditions within your relationship to be able to express that love. And I totally get what you say, like if they go and do something crazy, but in that same sense, even if they do that thing that's considered crazy, the person I love wouldn't do that. And this all goes back to my initial belief. You might want to watch it, season 1. Essentialism, nature over nurture. And I believe you're born a particular way and you can only deviate from that just slightly. So if I love you for the person you are and I've made the right decision to love you and I've judged your character in a particular way, I don't ever think you're then going to murder my best friend. Do you get what I mean? Like that isn't going to happen because that's not the person that I love. So I've either made an issue with my judgment, and then that's the problem there, and that's why.
Right.
Otherwise, I think you can then love unconditionally, and we just put those conditions within the relationship to express that love.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
I guess what happens in a situation where you discover something new, the person hasn't changed, but you discover something new about them, like they would murder your best friend. You didn't know that before, but that is unveiled for you.
But that's what I'm saying. I think it's like an error in judgment, or you love the idea of that person. Does that make sense? The longer it is, the more chances they have to show you that they're not the person that you thought they were. But if you, hopefully over the course of 20 years, you'll be able to judge that person's character pretty well, or 10 years even, and then make a decision.
Yeah.
That's long, bro, 10 years.
You know, that's true love.
Yeah,
That's
you
unconditional
started
love.
early. You started early.
Yeah, I've got 10 years.
me and Dan are starting a bit later, bro. We ain't got 10 years now. We ain't got 10 years.
I guess on that, it's like I feel your wants, needs, and you'd like desires are changing all the time, and your partners are as well. So to sort of say, this is who I think you are, and you're always gonna sort of hopefully be like that. I think that would just go against like progress within someone's own personhood and like also within the relationship. You know, do you not think you could put like almost boundaries on? You cannot change or deviate from this, and you have to remain how you are. Otherwise, that's an error in my judgment.
That's interesting, but like, I don't think people will change that much.
Really?
That's basically, to explain, there's something called essentialism. And essentialism is at the heart, what is the important factor to determine your character? Is it your surroundings or is it from birth? And I've always gone with it from birth. It's from the nature of your parents, and obviously your environment plays a factor, but it's from birth. And so as a result of that, you can only deviate so far from that initial essence. And I don't think you can deviate far enough. If you choose to love this person, you've seen them over 10 years, I don't believe you can deviate far enough from that person that I understand you to be.
Sure.
And if you do deviate, that means there was a problem with my judgment.
Right.
That's kind of how I see it.
It sounds very like fate-led in a way. Like,
yeah,
you know,
like a bit fated.
It's gonna happen, or it's, you know, it's not meant to be.
It's interesting you say that, because we had an episode about fatalism, and Benz was on the side of the fatalist.
Right.
But I
think
disagree. I mean, fundamentally, I disagreed in the essentialism discussion that we had. I believe that, you know, you're the sum of your surroundings and fundamentally your experiences. And I think those shape your character more than who you are at the point of birth. So we're naturally opposed on that issue. Do you know what I mean? That's just the way it is.
I asked my dad the question on unconditional love. And I'm interested to know what you think about this, but this was like wild for me.
Yeah.
I said to him, I was like,
Bro, I don't love you.
but taking family out of the equation with unconditional love, he was like, I love your mum unconditionally. And I was like, okay, because my mum died when I was 10. So I think there's this weird thing where he's bound to unconditionally love my mum, but the only condition is that she's dead. And it's this kind of like, I don't know, when he said it, I was like, there's this really weird irony within that. Because it's like, is he now falling in love with the idea of someone who used to be, where there were boundaries, and now it's boundaryless because she's no longer here. But he has never loved since, never will love again, in his words. And it's kind of like, I unconditionally love, you know, your mum. And then that goes into a whole host of things of, you know, if you are religious or believe in afterlife, you know, can you still be in some spiritual way or religious way in touch with someone and have a relationship with them beyond the grave? But I just found it so fascinating. My dad was like, yeah, unconditionally, I still love your mum. And I find it kind of beautiful as well.
That is beautiful.
I do see the beauty in that. But it's interesting that you mentioned about the boundaries.
Right.
Now that she's passed, there's no boundary that she could cross at any point, and there's no expectation that he could have from her. So perhaps that's just like a different realm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of like, it's not even comparable to the love that we're talking about.
I don't think it's comparable at all. I just thought it was quite interesting. My dad said that.
I mentioned it slightly, I alluded to it in the first segment about love not being a thing that you have between two people, but an action that people do to one another. And I kind of want to get you guys' take on this. It's a definition that Bell Hooks uses in her book, All About Love. And the definition is the will to extend oneself for the purpose of nurturing another person. And that is expressed through action. Her claim is that love is a verb. It's not an action. So you have to intentionally do love or it does not exist. I believe that to be 100% true. Obviously, in the first segment, I made the argument. I want to get you guys' take on that. How do you feel about love being a verb that you do to one another intentionally and not something that you have between two people?
I think love being something you do, I don't know. I don't think I agree with that. I think it's this like lovely place where you arrive at. Yeah, and I think you do then just naturally want to do things for the other person.
I guess though, what you've described is not necessarily incompatible with that definition.
Yeah.
Because that space that you occupy in love is a space where you nourish each other. Is where you allow each other to grow and nourish each other spiritually. I still think you've done things though to cultivate that environment in your relationship, and it requires constant action and intentionality. But I do hear your point.
So it wasn't love when you were committing those actions?
To create the environment where you nourish each other?
Precisely, yeah.
I believe that to be love.
You believe that to be love?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So you've done it with the intention of nourishment, right? You want that person to grow.
Yeah.
But to push back on that a little bit, do you not do a lot of those things for other people who you don't end up in love with? Does that make sense? It's similar to like courtship. Like we court more than, like over the course of our lives, we courted more than one lady. More than one lady.
I don't remember none of that. I only know one woman.
Not consensually. I'm a one woman.
And in that time, for some of us, you might be. For some of us, obviously, you've done similar things. But you haven't ended up loving them.
I guess so, but like courtship's not love though. Like, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like
so
when you courted a woman, you didn't love her, or you weren't necessarily even loving her in the act of courtship.
Of course. So I'm trying to clear up the difference between the courtship and the loving actions that you're suggesting. Like, what are the difference between the two?
Well, I would argue that in order to nourish someone or create an environment or do an action that is for their nourishment, you need to know them. Like, that's a bare minimum, right? I don't know what would nourish like a random guy off the street, but I know that intimately with, you know, the people that I spend time with, and I know intimately. So I don't think you can pull up to a first date and do love.
Okay.
Do you get what I'm trying to say? I don't know this person. I think you could probably start doing love quite quickly.
Oh, okay.
Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
And if that's reciprocated and there's no friction, run it up.
And then from doing love, you end up in love. Is that what you're basically saying?
Yeah.
And then you do love while you're in love.
You do love every day and every moment. You choose to do it, you know what I mean? And you continue to do it.
I think you are right. I think it's just to call it like love as a verb, it just makes it sound so reductive. Do you know what I mean? It just sounds really shit.
It might take the romance out of it, but yeah.
But I do think you are, I'm not going to call it love, but like you're doing something to your partner when you're in that space and hopefully wanting to get further into that nurturing space, for sure. And if the quote says it's like you're doing love, then fine. Whatever. But yeah, I think maybe that is correct.
Yeah, I like that.
You win this one.
On to the final segment, the dilemma. You are in a long-term relationship, but have recently found out that your partner is financially supporting a political cause that you believe is harmful and unethical. After multiple discussions, your partner states their intention to continue supporting the cause and has asked that you respect their right to express themselves politically. Does your partner's position jeopardize your relationship?
We got a problem. We got a big problem. I can't lie. Yeah, it does jeopardize our relationship. I'm gonna see what Dan says before I continue.
Yeah. I want to be annoying and say like no, but with semantics on the question.
Of course,
I'd love to know how much it's going to impede on the relationship, because I mean that's why I said I like you because, but I love you despite. And I'd like to think that despite of someone's, political thoughts or what they believe in, I think I'd like to be able to see through that, even if it's a complete disagreement. However, with that being said, if it was impeding on the relationship to the point of I was uncomfortable being around their thoughts, I wouldn't want to be part of that relationship. But for the moment, I'm going to be like, I don't have a problem.
Well, you've had a long-term relationship with them up until this point. So we're talking at least like 6-7 years or something.
Yeah.
And it may be like something new.
How do you feel, Dan, that someone's politics is a reflection of who they are? Because that's a key distinction here.
I think absolutely someone's politics are a reflection of who they are. Just like I think someone's friends are a reflection of who they are in a lot of different parts. Yeah, absolutely.
To me, if they are supporting a cause that I believe is harmful and unethical, is part of who they are. Like, they are supporting something that is harmful and unethical to me, and I see that as a transgression of a boundary. Because it's like, going back to the definition, it's like love is something you do, right? In that moment, or in continued, like they've done it for some period and will continue to do it in the future, I see that as like a violation. Do you get what I'm trying to say? There's no love there in what they're doing. And I get that they're doing it for their own political expression, but to me, politics is fucking serious. And your politics is a guide to your own, your ethical standard and your morals. And your politics reflects the person that you are. And I can't just leave that, bro. That's deep.
But I do think you've said it then. You're clearly someone who's very entwined within politics and someone who's like, that's a non-negotiable for you.
Yeah, exactly. It's my boundary. Yeah, exactly.
But I do think there's a lot of people who would potentially disagree with you and be like, if it's not impeding on our relationship to a point where it's detrimental, as Ben said, I've known this person for 7-8 years maybe. So I do think there are some circumstances where you'd be able to be like, if this is not impeding on
what if it's
our
like a non-harmful thing? Like it.
I want you to answer the question first. Does it jeopardize your relationship?
Again, I'm a little bit with Dan. It kind of depends on the issue. If they support,
all lives matter.
Of course. that's a different line. But I mean, if anything they support causes harm, like clear, obvious harm, then we have an issue. But like, say they support aggressive introduction of AI, like an aggressive introduction of AI, we don't know where AI might go, right? Obviously. Would that still be something that would be an issue for you?
We can talk about that one.
Yeah, okay.
There's some that we ain't even chatting. Wrap it up.
And I'm sure we'd agree with you. There's some that obviously it would be like, this is really
of course.
Dangerous.
And maybe like as we run through a couple scenarios, we'll get to the ones that where we'll touch on our lines, our boundaries. But I mean, AI is not apolitical, right? It it uses a massive amount of water. It damages the environment.
Exactly.
It uses very low wage labor in the global south to fact check and verify responses and to train the actual software. If I spoke about that with my partner, we could have a conversation about that. And if I spoke about that with my partner and they were like, fuck all that noise, run it up, now we got a problem.
You would still have a problem with that?
We got a problem there. If I've explained that...
It would like jeopardize your relationship.
No, it's not going to jeopardize my relationship.
Yeah.
But we got a problem.
You might have an issue, that's fine though.
But how are we going to resolve that issue?
I just stay dormant for a while. Like, you don't solve every issue straight away. Like, you just stay dormant.
And with all that being said, if your partner said, listen, this is just where I'm at with that. Like, we're going to have to agree to disagree on this because that's just where I'm at. It's not going to affect us. That's just what my point is. Would you be able to overlook it, or would that be like a sort of a little itch that you wouldn't be able to get out of your head?
I think it would be an itch. I think you're right.
Really?
Yeah. Like
I do. Maybe it's not the right. Maybe I haven't experienced the right issue. I think maybe if the right issue put itself to me, I'd be like, no, that's not okay. But at the moment, I haven't sort of ever experienced that.
I mean, there are things that we are complicit in sat here right now today.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You know, it took us maybe 35 minutes, but now's the time I'm going to bring up capitalism. I found my avenue. Okay. But when we are complicit in capitalism, when we buy stuff, you know, our consumption of goods is not ethical, but we're also forced to be in that position. So there are political issues that, you know, your hand is completely forced. And I'm not gonna, as someone's partner, I'm not gonna be like, you have to take my point of view or you have to do something quite mad in order to
appease you,
to appease me, or to like be morally consistent, or to take the moral high ground.
That's us. I've enjoyed you, Dan.
I've enjoyed being here, man.
When he said, "Why am I showing?" I said, "He's in it, bro. He's in it, bro." Anyway, thank you for joining us. Much love and see you soon.
Take care. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for having me. That's so funny.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. Let me ask you though. So those people that you've dated in the past.
Yes.
There's some bad girl as well, you know.
Mate, we're not going into that. We're leaving that at the door.
Wow.
Yeah.
Strong.
Oh, we cooked, bro.
Where do you stand on unrequited love within a relationship? You speak about like these dangerous like behaviors that can sometimes be seen, like not to give a name to them, but like, you know, you see a lot of like news about like incels and very dangerous sort of behaviors. But like if someone is in a relationship and they're very aware of unrequited love within that relationship, like, do you think it could bring about real dangerous sort of behaviors? And
Absolutely. And I think withdrawing your love from a partner in a relationship is one of the most brutal things you can do. It's fucked because they still have access to you, but that access is limited. And they always have the hope that you will love them in the way that you once did.
And they may not understand why you don't love them the way you once did.
Exactly. And I think that setup is borderline abusive.
Absolutely.
And I think that tug of war that I was talking about earlier, that tug of war of one person wants love expressed in a certain way and the other partner is unwilling to do that, partly because we're told that love and relationships is selflessness and compromise. So if it's selflessness and compromise, I don't really want to compromise myself all the time. I'm trying to win the tug of war.
Absolutely.
And I think relationships where someone loves the other a bit more than, you know, they are loved is a very difficult scenario, and it's ripe for like pain and suffering.
It's a balance of power, isn't it? It's really difficult.
It's weird, like, I think the phrase, like, the person who wears the trousers is the one who cares less. It's mad.
Well, it's like this chasing, especially at the beginning of the relationship. It's they didn't reply for 4 hours, I wouldn't reply for 4 hours. And it's kind of this weird little game that you play.
Yeah, it's mad.
While you've been talking, initially we were sort of like, is politics a judgment of your character, or is it a reflection of your character? And while you've been talking, I've been thinking it's not as much as I initially did.
I'm not doing a good job.
Because well, I just think when I'm sitting there, it's a lot of it is education. Like a lot of it is knowledge, and a lack of knowledge, because it's tough to know everything about everything, right? And you don't know what you don't know. So you form opinions, you form your understanding of these things unwittingly, like unknowingly, and often just based on experience, right?
Right.
And once you receive the knowledge, you often change that. And that's what happens
That's what
with
I'm
a lot of
saying.
people.
You have the chat, and I'm saying if the chat's not, you get the knowledge now.
Yeah,
And
but to state that like a political opinion is reflection of character is probably not true then. Does that make sense?
Are we talking extremes? Is what you're saying? Like if someone had an extremist political view, that would be a reflection of their character?
no, I think your politics is a reflection of who you are.
Yeah,
As
maybe
a whole,
reflection of
like
who
I
you
think
are, like your knowledge as well.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think I do get that it's harsh to say like your politics is an indictment of your character and like to bash someone over the head with something that they don't know about. But also you are that person. If you don't have the knowledge, then and what you were saying you're ignorant on an issue, then you're ignorant. What are you
saying? So what?
You're ignorant. Like, no, you're ignorant on that issue. That's who you are.
Okay.
Right? Go read a book.
Yeah.
What? I can't just give you a pass because you don't know.
Yeah.
What? Are you're just gonna keep not knowing?
No, I do think it depends on the issue. Like if your issue is grounded in harm to another community, yeah, we have a problem. But if, for example, your issue is about AI or your issue is about something that isn't a clear and obvious harm to a community, I can't kill you for that. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, but
I can't kill you for that.
the thing is, yeah, if you have a political position, like no one's forcing you to have a political position, right? If you don't have the knowledge, you can say, I don't have the knowledge. In the scenario, my partner is taking a political position. So presumably she has some knowledge that she's acting on. So we can't go with the ignorance thing.
Okay.
We can't say, she doesn't know. She must know something. She's taking the position.
Yeah, okay.
You don't just take positions without knowing anything, right?
Yeah. Okay.
But I just think you're then coming from the standpoint of, well, it is your standpoint, that her whole being is therefore her politics.
Sort of the other way around. Like, the politics is who she is.
Right.
But she obviously is stuff outside of politics as well.
Right.
Right? It's
but
like,
the politics would take the higher ground and you would take a complete disregard for everything else that she is if her politics were slightly, extreme or askew or whatever it was.
I see the politics as a subset of who she is.
Right.
But there's no political position that does not impact my judgment of who she is. It's a subset. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
I'm saying you've also subsetted like her personality, everything else that you fall in love with. Or are you saying it's literally not, it's completely one-on-one? There's no like taking it apart?
Kinda.
Yeah.
Kinda. But like I said, I can appreciate and love her for things outside of politics, for sure. But I think it's a big part of like who you are as a person.
Yeah. Sure.
It's like a reflection. Like,
Sure.
That's what I used to think up until this conversation. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've moved a little bit. I've shifted a little bit.
Like, how do you feel about people like not voting and like not taking up their rights to vote, or like your partner being like, I don't want to vote because I'm not interested in it, for example? It doesn't move me.
I've voted every opportunity that I can because I believe that exercising my right to vote is part of political expression and political change. Fine, that's my position. If someone says I didn't vote and they've got a good reason, I'm willing to hear it. Like, I don't know everything. There's multiple people in the past who are like activists and revolutionary thinkers who do say that you should opt out of voting. You should opt out of that political system. So I'm aware of like that position. So I'm willing to hear a good reason. The reason you gave me is not a good enough reason.
For which reason in particular?
It don't move me.
Okay.
Because it moves me.
Right.
You know what I'm trying to say? It don't move me don't sound like a good enough. There's no reason behind that. It's just like, I think as a black person existing in the UK is a political position. So I would be confused as to that for that reason. But there's other reasons that I could hear today that I'd accept. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
How do you feel about like that stance? Do you
I
vote?
think,
Do you
well,
vote?
no, to agree with you, I've voted at every opportunity that I've been legally allowed to, and I
Right.
have done that. And again, I think it's exercising your right as a human and as a member of society within the UK. But I've been out with people and I've been in love with people who have not done that, and they've just been like, I don't think my vote is going to make a single difference. My constituency is so overruled by a certain party that it's not going to make a difference at all. And I've always just been like, yeah, cool, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that.